Yellow, I'm Dallas, and on today's episode we're going to talk about Marvel trading cards, both new and old. Marvel Overpower from back in the day and the Versus system from today. I think it's going to be fun to dive into these and kind of experience them side by side, so stick around. Okay, so let's talk about what we actually have here before we dig into it. I played a little bit of this in college, Versus system. There are also DC cards, and I guess, I don't remember, because I only played a few rounds with some friends that knew how to play in college. I knew a lot more about it then, but there are DC cards, and you can kind of pit Marvel and DC against one another, which I think on its own was a pretty cool selling point, right? Like, why wouldn't you want to fight Spider-Man versus Batman? I don't know why they'd fight each other, but you get what I mean. So that was kind of the draw to this game, that you could do both of those things. It certainly piqued my interest, and I certainly collected a bunch. Never really played enough to get into it, but I think the biggest setback for this game for me when I got into it back in college was that it was not Overpower. Now, when I was a kid, my oldest brother, AJ, he collected all kinds of trading cards and stuff, just like I do now. But the thing he had that just drove me batty were these Marvel Overpower cards. And I thought they were the best thing in the world. So now that I'm older, of course, I can't walk past them without buying them. But honestly, I've only gotten back into collecting them now. So this is going to be one of my first unboxing experiences ever of Marvel Overpower. So I think that's going to be fun. And let's not really wait. Let's jump into that. This is a box of the Versus system, a very modern Marvel, very modern, let's say, superhero trading card game, because this gets complicated, because there was also eventually a DC component to this as well, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But this is a tin I got from a local store, and it just had some cards in it. And honestly, first time I ever went out and bought this card game as well, now as an adult. All the cards that I had when I was in college when I played this were similar to all this stuff you see here, just stuff I acquired at yard sales or whatever. So this is my first adult purchase of Versus system. Now you'll notice on the back here it doesn't say Marvel, or it doesn't say DC, and that's because we can jump in over here to my current Versus system. Same back, same exact back, but look, there's a DC character and there is a Marvel character. So again, you get to fight them side by side, and it's pretty neat. I'm hoping if you're watching this and you're not super into this card game specifically, you'll appreciate seeing this stuff next to each other. I think it's great. And as far as I know, this game didn't really take off and do anything crazy, so it's not really something that you can continue to buy new cards of today. But I still think it's lovely, and I still think it's something I'm very excited to collect and probably build some buy some starter decks for, build some decks out of, and then of course I would love to complete this whole collection, the entire thing. I think that would be a very lovely thing, especially since, like, I'm such a Marvel fan, almost a Marvel buff anyway. Like, Kingpin is one of my favorite villains of all time, and Vincent D'Onofrio's depiction of him in the Daredevil series on Netflix is probably one of my favorite villain roles on screen of all time. So this makes me very happy, and I think in the upcoming series that Hannah and I want to do, where we just once a week, couple times a month, play random card games together and try to play as many as we can, I think this will be a good one to get into. The only other thing I think I can say about it before we move on, and this is kind of silly, but they remind me of Harry Potter cards a little. I don't know what it is, just that kind of dark red, blue. I don't know if you guys remember the Harry Potter trading card games. I have some somewhere, but I've not gotten around to organizing them, so there's none in here, but just take my word for it. There's a very Harry Potter-esque design to these cards. All right, well, let's jump over here to this Overpower box. Prepare yourself for the beauty. I don't know. You guys will have to let me know what you think. Maybe we should make this a little bit of a competition, side by side. What do you think looks more fun to play? Comment this below once we go through these cards. Versus system or Overpower system. So this is a starter deck, mind you. We haven't really opened any expansion packs of either of these, though. Believe me when I say I want to do that in the future. I would love to make some live videos opening packs from both of these series. But every one of these starter decks always had a little instruction booklet which is always nice because there's some obscure card games out there you might not have heard of that it's very hard to find the rules for. So that's very nice to have. And then this card, it's very pretty and white with the overpower symbol, but it's just a list of the packs and the starter decks. So that's cool. But let's just, before we go anywhere, let's talk about this. I mean, there's 1,000 different avenues in which we could talk about the modern aesthetic being simpler than the past aesthetic. I mean, architecture, design, everything went this way. Super simple. You know, think about Yu-Gi-Oh card backs, just circles. You know, like the modern things. It's just not. I don't know. Maybe Yu-Gi-Oh is also not a great example because it's not exactly the newest card game either. But very simple, right? Just versus. But this overpower. Somebody said in a boardroom meeting one day and said, "Who are our most iconic characters to put on this card game?" And of course, somebody said Spider-Man. There was probably a debate over the second one, and they finally went with Wolverine, which I would agree with. If I think iconic Marvel, I think those two. You might think others, but for me, growing up when I did in the 90s, that's definitely what I think. So we haven't even looked at the front of the cards, and I don't mean to just, I don't know what, I don't mean to just be a sap over these, but I can't think of a card cover, a card back that I like more than that. So let's flip this over and let's look at it. I will say, just because of my recent consumption of YouTube and stuff, I know more about the mechanics of this game specifically than I do of Versus, but we'll try to derive a few things out of both just looking at them. This game is a game in which you are you have a team of characters. You start out with 4 characters on the field, and then you basically have power-ups and all this other stuff. And I just want to point out that there are not a lot of card games out there that are full art like this. I mean, every card game you can think of off the top of your head is going to be this Pokemon type setup that we're all, I hate to give Pokemon all the credit, but you know, Magic the Gathering maybe. Just, this is the typical card game setup. And the thing that always just drove me nuts, that drove me batty about these overpower cards, and mind you, I have plenty more of these we can look at. Here's a whole other box of them. The thing that just drove me batty about these cards is how beautiful they are. I mean, just all the way through, from beginning to end, these bad boys are just beautiful. So look, ripped right off the comic book pages, Cyclops, right? But here's your character cards. When you start the game with these guys on the field. Gambit, Rogue, and you have a team of like 4 people, 1 in reserve, 3 on the front lines, and it's a pretty neat thing. And then as you draw cards, you get power-ups and you get all this other very, very Marvel stuff. It's very Marvel, it's very superhero. So that's what a character card looks like. So this sets out on the field. You never draw that out of the deck. And then you do draw the other Gambit cards, and you somehow power him up or do stuff with him. It's very neat. It's a very cool game, and when you play it, it makes sense in the world of Marvel. Now, I don't remember so much about this one, but, you know, there's some other mechanics in this game that make it quite a bit different. They're not hardly comparable at all, to be completely honest, when you read the rule books of both. There's barely any similarities. I'd say the biggest similarity between these games is that they both, in their own way, they both have a DC and Marvel component. Overpower started out with nothing but Marvel characters, and then a little bit later they introduced DC characters. Whereas this game started out very much so meant to cross them over. So they're different and kind of the same in that way. I mean, it was almost seemed like an accident when DC was added to this, whereas this started with it. But they did both have both components, and it was a very early way to settle those beefs. Who would win in a fight? You know, I don't know, Superman and whoever the Marvel component is, or the Marvel opposite of Superman. You know, but I certainly had those conversations with my little brother growing up. You know, who would win in a fight, Wolverine or Batman? This was certainly a way back in the day you could settle that, and I mean you can still do that in Marvel Versus in a much more modern way. But I'm going to go ahead and tell you, if you ever got the choice between these two card games, I'm gonna make my official recommendation Overpower. But I would love to know what you guys think in the comments below. Having looked at these cards side by side, which do you think are prettier? Which do you think you would rather get into? I'm not trying to trash the Versus system. There's nothing wrong here. I just think it kind of looks basic, to be completely honest with you. The artwork's great, and it's probably my favorite thing to look through some of this artwork. But I guess I'm just a regular old nostalgia 90s baby, because, I mean, what card game could be cooler? Where did that Gambit card go? Come back, Gambit. I've passed him up. I've never seen anything so... he's gone. Gambit's ran away. The Wolverine's cool. Where'd you go? I just want to show you this one card. You're telling me that's a trading card game? It almost looks like that. If that didn't have the numbers on it, it almost looks like it's a Fleer Marvel collectible card. If you would have just taken those numbers off. So I think a lot of people have probably come across these and thought that. Just thought it was those collectible cards and not realize it was a trading card game. Comment below. Tell me, which one do you like better? Anybody out there watching played either or both of these? Let's chat about it in the comments below, or if you want extra credit for today's class, definitely go over to our public Discord where you can come chat with us, come chat with me about some of your card game collections. I'd love to see pictures of either one of these. If you collect either, definitely let's talk about them over on the Discord. If you're not already a member, go join. And also, before you go, check out our merch store before you leave. Links for that and the Discord are below. Go check them out. And then definitely come back next time for our next video. We're doing some live videos, opening packs of some of this stuff real soon. So make sure you're subscribed with those notifications on so you can be ready when we do that. And until then, guys, peace out.